Hey, this is Sasha, and welcome to another episode here on Backstage Income, where I go inside, behind the scenes, so that way you can grow and build your online business. Now, in today's episode, we're going to go ahead and take a look at prioritizing in your business. So what do you start with first? What do you do with second? And this is more so once you already have your business somewhat established and you're starting to get some growth. You're starting to get some exposure. What is it that you go after? What is it that you do next? What is it that you do first? What's the priority? How do you prioritize these things? So I'm going to share with you some tidbits about prioritization, and I'm going to share with you some thoughts about how I go about doing it, so that way you are not being driven crazy or insane. So let's go to the screen and let's take a look. All right, so first things first, before we get to the screen, I want to share with you a little story about why I decided to make this video. And I love making these kinds of videos because when you go in and you hear some insight of somebody on your contact form and they send a message to you, kind of like a hate message, I love these kinds of things. And the reason I love them is because it means you're getting exposure, and you're getting exposure that consistently is piquing people's attention. Now, you got to remember that not everybody has the same priorities as you in your business, because you see things from the backside, they only see it from the front side. So it's important you understand that when you're running a business, sometimes the important things are not always to jump for your customers, because otherwise you're just constantly jumping for fires. If I did that all the time, my business would just constantly be putting out fires all the time. So you can't really do that. You have to focus on the core business overall. So here's a little note that I got. It's like, why would I ever take advice on writing from someone who has numerous grammar errors in their posts? You have no business marketing yourself as a coach. So it's important you understand and recognize, hey, when I get these contact forms and when I get information from people like this, it's probably submitting a fake name and fake email address. But when you get these kinds of things, number one, you're getting exposure, which is a good thing. Number two, your priorities are not matching up to their priorities, which you may or may not lose a customer here or there. But again, you have to recognize that sometimes your priorities are different than your customers. So when I look at this, and you look at, let's say, our Backstage Income website, you have to remember that I go ahead and the way I create content is I make a video. From that video, we span and create an article post. Then that article gets converted into a podcast. Again, from the video, the audio is extracted. And from that, we extract screenshots. So really, I don't personally do any of the writing when it comes to the blog posts. So let's just take one here, for example. 8 tips to film and edit. And you can see right here, here's the video content. So I go ahead and shoot the video. And then my assistants, they go ahead and compose this article and post. So of course, it may have a few grammatical errors here or there, but is it a high degree of importance for you and in your business to make it perfect? You can go ahead and ramp up the cost. Could we go ahead and make it all perfect? Yeah, maybe. But for all the posts and the amount of content that we produce, is it worth maybe $5,000 or $10,000 to do that? From my perspective, no, because more and more people are going more into the video realm. But, you know, other people may disagree and say, hey, well, you have to if you're doing and teaching and coaching people regarding publishing books. Because if you don't know, I do have quite a handful of books, and we also have a lot of freebies, PDFs, guides, books, and those things that you can actually download. So but if you want to get some free ones, go to backstageincome.com and just download all the freebies you want. Now, do they maybe have a few errors here and there as far as the content goes, grammar goes? Yeah, maybe. But as far as the content itself, the core content, the amount that people are learning, it's much more worthwhile to go ahead and produce an asset like this than it is to maybe perfect it. Getting it something done is better than perfect. And that's the way I approach things, because if I was to go ahead and spend, let's just say, months upon months on certain books, which I did, I've done this in the past. And if you look at one of these books right here, Business Launchpad, I spent months upon months writing this book and then try to get it to perfect. And then the sales were minuscule. It wasn't really that many sales. When in fact, if you just knock out and crank out a handful of books, you see which ones stick, you can always evolve it to version 2. Do you think the iPhone was perfect when it first came out? iPhone version 1, version 2, 3G, 3GS, then 4, 5, 6, and they continue to improve it from time. So when you look at your business, you have to remember your priorities are different from your customers' priorities. And you could go ahead and perfect every single thing but then you're just wasting a lot of time. You're probably wasting a lot of money, energy, and resources on things that are low value to you. So looking at this website, if this website was not working, not functioning, it would probably have bigger importance to get the website up and running than to perfect the blog post. Now that the website is up and running, okay, well, is it important to get the blog post perfect, or would I rather have a freebie section where I have a lot of PDFs and micro books that people can download? In my case, I'd rather have more PDFs and micro books, micro assets, have a better email list than having perfect blog posts. Again, for you, it might be different. Everybody's priorities are different. You have to align those things. And there's a couple different ways of doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on paper for you. So taking a look at it this way, this is what some people like to do, is they like to look at a priority matrix. And the way that this really works is you have importance here, which is a high or a low importance. And then urgency here, low or high urgency. So if I have something very urgent and very important, you want to do those things right now. And the reason you would do that is, let's just say something like, if you have a website that's a membership website and people are not getting their registrations, right? The registrations is missing, the payment isn't working. And that's really important, I would say. In my book, that's important. In your book, you may say, hey, that's kind of minor because I have now an employee that's going through a hard time and is suicidal. Well, that might be even more urgent and more important than fixing a registration. So again, you have to look at it on a personal level and a business level. Okay, so let's say you have something that's, hey, it's not urgent, but it's really important. So these are the things that you would probably do next. Okay, something that is highly urgent, but not that important, you'd probably do last. And that's kind of where the blog posts fit in for us right now at the moment. We kind of do them, we create blogs, but we really create videos because I know eventually we can still create blog posts from them. And then something that's, let's say, not that urgent and not that important, you probably will never get to do them anyway. So this is kind of a priority matrix that you kind of run through that some people use in the business world. And you could go ahead and do it this way if you want and if it makes sense for you. Again, the difficult part with this is to kind of think about the organization part of your business. For me, the way I like to approach it is a little bit different. So I approach my business tasks a little bit different. So I look at it as a cycle. And this is basically a cycle that repeats over and over again. So I might have, let's just say, social media tasks. I might have website related tasks. I might have a podcast. And again, you could drill this down into, let's say, podcast editing, let's say podcast guests, if you have guests on your podcast. As far as the website goes, you could have, let's say, content. And you could say, okay, well, I want to focus on images, image optimization even, if you want to get more specific. I want to focus on, the grammar behind the content. I want to go ahead and focus on the affiliate links on the posts. So all these things, you could drill down, and 1 month you might just focus on image optimizations for, let's just say, 50 blog posts. Next month you might focus on the grammar. Next month you might focus on the affiliate links. It's not that you're doing all this step by step in order for every single blog post, because that takes a lot of time. Instead, what we do, the way I approach it is, hey, this week is a social media week. Let's do a lot of social media. We're doing social media templates. We're scheduling 6+ months out. Then the next couple of weeks, it might be websites. Then again, you're doing a lot of things, and you might still do some things here and there throughout the week for the website, but it's like the core focus. What's your core focus this week? This next couple of weeks might be all about podcasts. Then the next couple of weeks might be all about content. Next couple of weeks might be all about SEO and marketing. And then what happens is when you get to the end, you loop back to the beginning, because by then, hey, something might be new or different, or you've discovered something new with social media. And I like to just cycle things back like this. And if things are, let's just say they're not urgent or not a priority, let's say, hey, I'm done with the website this week. let's say, hey, okay, the next thing on the list is podcast. Well, there's not a lot to do. Okay, so we'll just skip it and we'll go to the next thing. So you skip it and you go to the next one. If there's not a lot here, okay, you skip this one, but you focus on the affiliate links. So you're cycling through, and eventually, if you have something new or different, well, you just pop it in right here. So this is the new thing. If you want to go ahead and add, let's say, a new social media thing like Pinterest or Facebook or Twitter, or you're not on any of those, you pop a new one like an Instagram, and now you're starting to put it into your cycle, into your repeat mode. So that's kind of the way I like to look at it and approach it. Is that I go ahead and really just cycle through things rather than doing a priority matrix. Because of course you could use a priority matrix, but sometimes to go ahead and try to figure these kinds of things out, okay, well, does it fit here? Does it fit there? Takes a lot of brain power and a lot of thought process. So I don't really personally do that. And that way, as I go through cycling these things, I can check out, hey, how's my website doing? Okay, good. If everything looks good, I move on to the next thing. Hey, how about my opt-ins? Opt-ins, do we need to work on more opt-ins? Do we want more opt-ins? Do we want to work on ads for the opt-ins? If that's good, okay, great. Is the mailing list working and functioning properly? Do we want to create more automations? Do we want to work on the emails? Oh, if that's having a little problem, then we go ahead and work on it. If it's not, then we'll go ahead and skip it and come back to it again on the next cycle. So again, how you structure your business is really up to you on the priorities. But remember that your customers' priorities are going to be different than your priorities. Sometimes you have more important and urgent tasks in front of you than what your customer sees. And that's just the nature of things, because you can never, ever please every single person 100%. So let those things slide if you're ever getting negative comments, and understand the bigger picture behind your business, because people aren't seeing it from your perspective. You have to run a business when you're running a business, and you can't get all these little micro fires turn you off, because we have tons and tons of system bugs and glitches. They're happening all the time. But for example, let's say this one right here, 6 membership platforms, this is probably not working right now, right? And I know that because we're working on it at the moment that this video is being recorded. So even though it's up, it's still not working, but it's on our list to do, and with time, we'll get there. So, you put these systems in place a little bit at a time, and you're constantly just evolving and growing, and with time, they'll all grow. Of course, you could try to perfect it, and then you do one launch, and then you put it all up at once, but that takes a little bit more time. Is it worth it? I don't know. You have to decide in your business if it is or isn't. I find that as long as you have the majority of things are functioning and working, then you should be all good and all set. Like here, this campaign, this one is working. A couple others are not. And with time, you'll get to those things that are not functioning, as long as you tag them, which ones are glitches, which ones are not glitches, and then you can go ahead and continue to evolve from version 1 to version 2 to version 3 to version 4, and you continue to improve those things in the future. Thank you so much for joining me in this week's episode. I hope you got some insight out of prioritizing and really just seeing the bigger picture, is that, hey, you don't have to be perfect at everything. Not everything is going to be perfect. Learn that mistakes are okay, and just things will continue to naturally evolve with time, as long as you're putting some energy into them. With time, your videos will get better. With time, your website will get better. It's just all about little improvements, time and time again, and then everything just slowly grows. All right, so thanks again for sticking with me. Enjoy the rest of the week ahead, and I'll see you next time.